Hey there, good afternoon and welcome to Tuesday's edition of Bernama Today with me, Tamina Kausdi, Jessie Chahal in the house.
That's right, happy to be here with you, bringing you the latest updates from in and around the country. Of course, many stories to highlight as well as two special interviews. Today, we of course will be talking about beauty and wellness with Dr. Alice, and towards the end of the hour, two interviewees are coming in for a very important topic as well.
That's right, feeding the needy, and this one is focusing on their fifth mission, which is going into Sandakan, hoping to help out with the women and children who are forced to scavenge the landfills of Sandakan and what their day-to-day life looks like. But all of that and more coming up later during the hour.
That's right, fantastic. Of course, we kick off with what's making headlines predominantly here in the Klang Valley, the water disruption issue. Tem, you had an issue as well this morning.
Absolutely. I think it was perhaps just the condominium management, or was it the overall water supply? But we literally had dark brown goop coming out in the morning.
Oh gosh, that is hard to deal with, especially when you're rushing out, you know, to get to places. You need to clean up, you need to have a shower at the very least. But also many houses or households around the Klang Valley are facing this issue. However, Shabas says that taps are running again for 77% of account holders, which means it's slowly coming back. Not much of a disruption any longer, although some areas are still affected. So out of 1.2 million households, 77% have been restored.
That's right. So of course the water supply is expected to fully be back in swing by Saturday. It's Tuesday today, so let's just hang in there. And during the later part of the evening, especially I think when the water supply is running clear after having run through the course of the day, let's just store up a little bit just to be safe.
That's right. And of course the Selangor group is trying to update their app as much as they can, as frequent as they can. So do download that app or otherwise visit their website. There are many sort of fake news thing going around.
Exactly, saying what's going on. But basically, this is the real McCoy, right? Basically, the shutting down of 4 treatment plants has been following diesel pollution of raw water sources, which happened on Sunday itself. Right, so moving on swiftly from there into our next story. Dr. M unveils Visit Malaysia 2020 logo and sets the target at 30 million tourist arrivals.
That's right, big year next year, and there you see the logo on that screen with the hornbill bird as a part of the main logo with the national flower, the hibiscus. Prime Minister Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad unveiled this logo. It's the Visit Malaysia 2020 logo. He's also set the target of 30 million international tourist arrivals next year. So of course this is a campaign, and it also presents an opportunity to attract a record number of visitors and make our country the country of destination of choice for leisure as well as business tourists.
That's right. And of course, there were lots of comparisons online and Twitterverse, especially about, the previous logo versus the logo right now.
The previous logo? Let's not even go there. That was bad.
I think people are loving the current one in general.
Yes.
Now, of course, the logo, which was a winning entry by graphic designer Alfred Phua Hong Fook, features the recognizable Malaysian icons, of course, the hornbill, the bunga raya, in the colors of the Jalur Gemilang. So the focus of the campaign is going to be, luckily so, ecotourism, arts and cultures, as it should be.
Absolutely. So I'm really proud that we've chosen these 3 streams to promote. However, besides it just being a campaign, I hope that on the ground we also live up to this theme, and we keep to ensuring that we are promoting and preserving our ecotourism, whatever beautiful sites we have, all national treasures, and we're doing enough to preserve our arts and culture as well, not just so much as a selling point or marketing gimmick.
Exactly, it should already be happening on the ground. Of course, this is the 5th edition of the Visit Malaysia Year program, with the last program which happened back in 2014. 2019. So let's see what this one brings. From there, moving on quickly into more laws to curb corruption. Well, awareness is the way to go, according to MACC Chief Latifah Koya, first and foremost.
That's right. Of course, she's got a tall order and she says she will go after whoever is responsible for corruption. But despite being a lawyer, the new Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission Chief Latifah Koya thinks that educating people about the ills of corruption and not just harsher laws is the way to tackle the problem. Education and awareness is what she's saying.
That's right. She, quote unquote, already has mentioned that she feels, I think the law is sufficient. We have to move away from the mentality of harder laws, more whipping, more jail time. That's not going to solve the problem. What we need to do first is create the environment to lessen the corruption, the offense itself, she said. And I think that's also one of the great features of why Latifah makes such a great MACC chief. She comes from a human rights law background, which is looking more towards not just humane treatment, but also towards moving towards a society that is able to be educated so that we're empowered not to actually commit offenses.
Absolutely. And I think previously as well, they have tried to develop the stream, but unfortunately, it didn't really go anywhere. And what we did was just discover more, cases. Nonetheless, Latifah says that this also will include preventing the interference of political entities in the government's day-to-day business. We just create more awareness and educate from the grassroots level as well. So I guess that she's also taking big strides and, trying to bring change to something that is quite difficult to penetrate and to influence.
Exactly. It's become quite the mentality. Now, of course, with the available law, civil service can already be sacked for any professional misconduct at work. And Latifah also said the government has increased initiatives to tackle the corruptions together with the National Centre for Governance, Integrity and Anti-Corruption, or GIACC. I think a lot of Malaysians will also be looking forward to this taking a much more actionable role.
That's right. So as we see and wait for that to pan out. On the other hand, one of the youngest ministers in the world, we're talking about Sports and Youth Minister Syed Saddiq. He says allowances for practical students is, of course, necessary.
That's right. Now, I think it might have actually stemmed from the fact that people were tweeting at him in light of the successful Undi 18 bill and saying, hey, now what about, getting interns, practical students, a little bit of an allowance so that you're actually earning a little something, or at least covering costs.
So we're already seeing the benefits of that come through. He's noted that not many students could afford to undergo practical training within a certain period of time. He says we do not only want those who are from wealthy families to have access to opportunities, but also those who come from other backgrounds, other experiences, and of course other financial backgrounds as well.
That's right. So being a lot more inclusive. On that note, we take a quick commercial break. We'll be back right after. Do stay tuned.
Welcome back to Bernama Today. Tamina Kausji, Jessie Chahal taking you through. We are on a Tuesday, 23rd of July 2019. Of course, many headlines making its way on your local dailies as well as social media sites. We're here to discuss those topics and bring them to you live, of course. Coming from the Deputy Prime Minister now, Wan Aziza says she wants the sale of cigarette-like candy, which of course made its rounds on social media as well through a viral video. She says she wants this candy stopped immediately.
Yeah, right. So basically what's also happening is that we did discuss this on the show yesterday, and she's come out quite quickly to say that the sale needs to be stopped, and at the same time parents have been urged to boost monitoring of their children. She says she does not want this matter to become a social ill spreading to children from a young age, and she also did not discount the possibility that ghost smoke could be the beginning of the drug addiction problem itself. So definitely looking out, and it is a viral issue, but I think there's also a deeper resonance to what could develop from it.
Absolutely. So it creates a lot of, I guess, interests by children into this thing by looking cool or wanting to consume this so that they get more popular. It's called ghost smoke, that too spelled wrongly, but nonetheless the health ministry says they are investigating this candy. Here you have it, the video of kids trying out this new candy. The Health Ministry's Food and Safety Quality Division has begun its investigation and says that they were reported to be sold freely in Sabah towns.
That's right. So moving on from there into A cat, this time around, discovered an abandoned baby in a bush. Now, a pet cat became an unlikely savior when it actually discovered a baby girl with an umbilical cord still intact, believed to have been dumped in the bushes at Jalan Bayam, Kota Baru, just yesterday.
That's right. So this cat, of course, a hero or a shiro, we don't know the sex of the cat, but the owner of the cat, Muhammad Nurazam Che Wahab 31, has said that it has become the cat's daily routine to release every morning in the vicinity of the area. He said that as soon as it was released, his cat immediately rushed across the road as if it was looking for something around the bush. And then he said afterwards, when he went to check the scene out, the cat continued to look around the bushes and found a baby covered in blood with the cord still intact. He said afterwards he informed his neighbor to call the police and they used a cloth to cover the baby.
That's right. Now, of course, the owner said that he could not imagine what would have happened if his cat had not discovered the baby. Once again, bringing back the broad focus for the utter and critical need for comprehensive sexuality education within the school system, as well as for parents to start the conversations early, because likely these are all generally the outcomes of teenage pregnancies.
Yes, and I understand that in our culture sometimes, in Asian culture, whether Chinese, Malay, Indian, these topics can be taboo. I get that, but we really need to move with times as well.
Absolutely.
We need to be progressive, and it is really never too early. I think if, by mid-primary school, you can start introducing these topics.
And don't call it the birds and the bees anymore, but let's be, logical about it.
Absolutely.
Right. So time now for a quick commercial break. When we're back, we'll be having Dr. Alice in the house with us. You don't want to miss that. Hey there, welcome back to Bernama Today. You're with us now, and we have Dr. Alice Pratima Michael joining us for our wellness segment on the house.
That's right. Of course, we're talking about a topic that is, I think, one that affects us all. Everyone can relate to fatigue syndrome, but today we're focusing on chronic fatigue syndrome. What does that encompass? Who does it affect? And how does it affect our daily lives? Welcome back to the studio, Doctor. Thanks for being with us. You, of course, have been very, 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 very busy. Conferences and whatnot. And you say that perhaps you might be having some fatigue syndrome.
Yes, but maybe it's not chronic fatigue syndrome, because first we need to differentiate between general fatigue and chronic fatigue syndrome. So when it comes to fatigue, all of us sometimes will have times when we are overworked, we are overtired, we have too much of stress, and then we take a day off, or we put in a day of medical leave, or we go for a short holiday, and then we kind of
feel rejuvenated.
Opposed to this, chronic fatigue syndrome is a condition. When we say syndrome in medical terms, basically it means that we don't really know 100%, but then it also means many systems are involved in the problem, and this problem normally presents as fatigue, which can be manifesting by the way of memory loss, feeling extremely tired or depressed or anxious in certain cases, going on to feeling heartburns, going on to feeling
inexplicable physical symptoms,
indigestions, and then starting to go on to have joint pains and muscle aches, which is unexplained. And generally, always for many of this kind of disorders, when doctors are not sure, they will try and get people to exercise a bit more, rest a bit more. But chronic fatigue syndrome actually gets worse with exercise. And even if you were to rest like 1 or 2 weeks, it never actually goes away. You don't recover from chronic fatigue syndrome. It can go on for years.
So that is chronic fatigue syndrome in a nutshell, though. Now, tell us, Dr. Alice, what about current lifestyles actually can predispose one towards chronic fatigue syndrome?
No one knows what is actually causing it, but if we can go into very scientific data, there's been a latest research coming out of Australia, where researchers actually found that there is a genetic mutation in one of the cell activators. It's a big mouthful to talk about the word, but this particular genetic product is actually different in people with chronic fatigue syndrome.
So does that become mutant over time, or is that something you're born with?
Exactly.
It could be you're born with, but certain things also make it worse. So that kind of explains why in medical terms we call chronic chronic fatigue syndrome, not just about fatigue, we call it myalgic encephalomyelitis. That means it's not only affecting the muscles and the whole body, but it also affects the brain in a way.
Like
and it's
said,
mediated, so it is mediated from the brain. And then the spinal cord, the pancreas, there's many areas in the human body where they found this kind of receptors are faulty. That means they are not taking the calcium from our food or from whatever we are eating and then putting it into the cells to be able to create energy and repair processes.
Okay.
So basically because of this, people have multi-etiology. It may be coming because of age. Right. For example, older the person you are, they found that
the more likely.
This actually goes down with age, the receptors. So you find that it becomes more prevalent with age. Women, of course, are reported to have more, CFS or chronic fatigue syndrome, but that could also be because women tend to be, hormone is one. Women tend to report.
Exactly.
Because chronic fatigue syndrome is very underreported because people do not know. It's not just about, doctors may say it's just your brain, you're malingering.
So let's put it this way. Most of us go through all different types of stress, regardless of what profession you're in, whether you're a homemaker or otherwise. At what point should you say to yourself, okay, I think I need to take myself to the doctor to check out whether I have CFS, chronic fatigue syndrome?
If you're not recovering, and because you're not recovering, it's starting to affect your life. In your working life, you can't actually perform well. You're taking too many medical leaves. In your family life, you don't get the energy to get up and take the dog for a walk or go with your family members for an outing, and you get so much of debilitating pain and negative thoughts in your head that you need to take off from everything. It even causes death in chronic cases is because people forgot to drink water. There's a case of anuric kidney failure.
I see.
And because one of the things that's happening in chronic fatigue syndrome is it's not just that receptor, there's also hormonal things like what you were mentioning.
Yes.
So when your hormones are faulty, you may also predispose to it. And of course your immune function, because that receptor first they identified was from the immune cells. That means your immunity is faulty. So that is why you get easily inflamed, then you get all these severe aches and muscle tightnesses that is unexplained. So when you can't explain away your tiredness, when you can't recover from your fatigue, and you've tried, you feel so difficult to get up, but you force yourself to go and exercise, it makes it worse.
Okay.
Then so you go see a doctor.
Some of the factors that we can conclude that really do contribute to chronic fatigue syndrome are things like viruses, weakened immune system, of course stress and hormonal imbalance. How many cases do you see of late basically? Have there been more CFS cases?
Throughout my 35 years of medical practice, of course, I've come across a lot of them, but of course now I specialize more into preventive health and all these different syndromes we talk about, and I go in depth into hormonal managements, and we know adrenal fatigue syndrome, metabolic syndrome, and when we are giving questionnaires and talking to patients, then we find sometimes they don't report it. They just thought that because I'm undergoing menopause or andropause for a guy, it's normal for me to feel so much of fatigue. So they don't report it.
Essentially speaking, though, a wellness physician would be the right sort of practitioner to address chronic fatigue syndrome.
Yeah, if you really studied into it and you are really practicing medicine as such, and you're focusing on preventing illnesses, then you would pick it up here and there. Of course, there are sometimes, to answer your question, people who come in and say, I'm extremely fatigued. I don't know what is wrong with me. And I changed my food pattern. So one of my first questions is going into how we differentiate it. Is first I would ask them is, are you on any kind of medications?
Right.
Because a lot of medications like statins, for example, we know it causes a lot of fatigue and muscle aches and pains, and people suffer with it. So we need to rule out other medical conditions. Say diabetes, which has got a big neurological impact. That means all your nerves are starting to give you problem, and you start to have different kind of pains and fatigue all over. Or you may be on antidepressants, and then you feel sometimes a high and a low, which can kind of what we call as the push and crash episodes, which happens with chronic fatigue syndrome.
Okay, so doctor, how do you diagnose this, and what would be the treatment? Do you go on another set of medication? Do you completely drop off some medication that you're on existingly? How do you treat this?
If one particular medication is actually one of the culprit causing this, then of course the ones we know about is always easy to take away, because at this moment there is no readily available test. Maybe the scientists, the researchers in Australia who identified this genetic problem, maybe they'll come up with some modifiers eventually, and we may be able to use it, as in many of the nutrigenomic supplements like I now use, you know, those are DNA coding. We find out there is a problem for this person, but at the moment chronic fatigue is not available yet. So we still will look at contributing factors. So then we would have to tweak their prescriptions a little bit. Maybe instead of a statin, we can give them something that will have less impact on their musculoskeletal system. They also come up with severe sore throats, and it can be all the time there. So we still need to run the blood test to make sure. Sometimes they actually have a spectrum of infection going on. Then we have to treat the infection, because if somebody is having an infection, that will have an impact on their immune system, their immunity. So sometimes I would also improve their immune function by giving certain basic things you all know about, like echinacea, some vitamin C's,
immunity
boosters. We give them that and take them off some of the things. And there's a lot of lifestyle, changes. So the whole family has to come together.
Lifestyle changes, though, let's cycle back a little bit, Dr. Alice. Tell us what would be some of the most distinct risk factors in general associated with chronic fatigue syndrome.
You should not over-exercise. You should not go and do crash dieting. Maybe many of the patients who see me, they are generally fatigued because they are already on have some issues with weight and so on, and they're trying to look younger, but then of course they are trying a lot of things from the net.
So also
they're on intermittent fasting. There are problems to take in the correct vitamins. The receptors to take in vitamins is faulty. So if they are going on a severe dietetic way without consulting a doctor, it's going to cause more impact. And then of course, you have to be active, you have to exercise, but the exercise prescription again has to be tweaked to suit them. Because these people will have the times when they rest and they feel a bit better. When they start to feel better, if somebody like me, who is always very active, we would go and try and exercise the maximum when we are feeling good about it, and then we'll try and work the maximum. So both brain fatigue and body fatigue then crashes. And then you can't pick yourself up till you take so long time to get better. So you need to give them a way of avoiding those activities that cause the most problem for you, for your family-related activities, for your work-related, career-related activities. We have to kind of adjust it so that they will go through a nice plateau, kind of. At the same time, if we stop them from exercising completely, they will actually get very weak in the body. So we don't allow that to happen. We work with immune modulators, natural supplements that will push their immunity up. Many times I will work on hormones like DHEA if they are low on thyroid, estrogens, testosterone. Sometimes all this will again contribute to more immune function problems. So I will also work on those. It's
also all very trial and error when they come to you as well.
A syndrome is always like that. A syndrome, there is no one particular causation. Because there is no one particular causation, there's no one particular medication.
That's right.
So we need to look at multiple. People vary.
So what is
their
the
life
home
conditions are varied. They're different. Their challenges are different. So we have to spend time with them, try and get them to find out what we can scientifically from their blood tests from the physical examination, and then from there come up with a program for them and gradually tweaking it as I go along.
But you did say that many of them sometimes don't report that they are feeling tired.
That is why I'm always telling people, do a good medical checkup. See a doctor. Don't wait till you fall sick. I think as we are advancing, you know, we are going towards 2020, we in Malaysia have also to think of health as something not just disease oriented,
wellness oriented.
Yeah, we say in anti-aging or in well-being science, the minute you're not feeling energetic, you are sick.
Right.
We are not saying you have a disease, but you're not well somewhere inside your body or your mind. And a condition like chronic fatigue syndrome, where both brain and body is all connected, we have to actually work on it, I think, very carefully, picking it up as much as we can, trying to brush away people when they report with severe aches and pains. If we don't find a swelling there, maybe if you're a traditional doctor, you may say you're just malingering, just go back to work.
Right.
Or it's all in your head. Take a day off, following day go.
MC.
So once again, Dr. Alice, thank you. What an informative segment again.
Absolutely.
We were speaking here about chronic fatigue syndrome here on Bernama Today. We'll take a quick commercial break. Don't go anywhere. Hey there, welcome back to Bernama Today. Thanks for still keeping it logged on to us here, coming live from the studios at Bernama News Channel. So, we go swiftly into our Sangga Bahasa segment.
That's right, brought to us by our friends at Dewan Bahasa dan Pustaka. Of course, you will know them if you have been carrying one of this in your school bag during your schooling years, or otherwise even in many offices you have this handy dictionary here on your table, perhaps like we have here. It's a dual language dictionary, but nonetheless, we also want to highlight words that are trending in the English language, but also find out what or how they are said in Bahasa Malaysia.
That's right. So for today, we've got the Bahasa Malaysia phrase, which is pastry buchi.
That's right. And in English, that's bouchées. It's basically a small patty shell, usually containing a creamed filling. Yummy, yummy, yummy.
Right.
For those of us who haven't had lunch yet, that looks very appetizing indeed. So yes, bouchées or pastry buchi.
Right. So basically, if you're ever wondering how you can say that in Malay, well, now you know. And thanks again to our friends at the National Library for this segment. So moving on from there into another couple of news stories. A senior citizen was robbed, and this happened, and police have launched a manhunt for 4 individuals for allegedly robbing a 66-year-old woman at Taman Tun Teja in Rawang just yesterday. The visuals are on. It is quite terrible.
This is horrible to witness, as the poor lady has had her eyes literally sort of plastered. Pictures of the victim with her face covered in masking tape, as you see here, as well as a voice recording relating this incident, went viral after the robbery at about 11 a.m. yesterday. Gombak District Police Chief ACP Samsul Maruf said the victim was waiting for a bus across the road from a clinic kesihatan in Rawang when a car stopped in front of her. They offered her a ride home, and she, thinking they're good Samaritans, decided, okay, well, let me jump in.
That's right.
There were 2 other men in the car as well as a lady, and they got together and they robbed her.
That's right, exactly. And that's actually how they covered her face in masking tape, which is why we saw the segment starting off with that. They relieved her also of her 2 gold rings, about 110 ringgit in cash, bringing us back again to a focus on definitely stay aware of your surroundings, especially to senior citizens and even children, who should never, of course, be let out of sight of their guardians. And don't just trust anybody regardless of what they say.
That's right. Unfortunately, the times are like this. Society has become like this, that we cannot easily trust. Nonetheless, there are still good people amongst us.
That's
and you just have to be a lot more aware and vigilant as to whose help you're getting, and just to really make sure that, you know, they're not going to take you for this horrible ride.
Very
right?
true. Right. So from there, we're moving on into a couple of other national news story. As this one is coming from the Deputy Minister Minister for Women, Family and Community Development, YB Hanayo, who says that giving alms to beggars encourages the begging habit. And of course, we often think that, to give is better than to receive, but Malaysians are urged to not be so generous, as their generosity can hamper efforts by the government to rid us of street begging.
Right, okay. It's true. I can't find the
that's
page.
Right. So anyhow, so she also said that such generosity could encourage the bad habit among beggars. And in her opinion, well, you know what, Jess, I think perhaps this comes from an early childhood spent in India, whereby we were always told, don't give out to the beggars because there's so many of them. But I never actually give out to beggars. But then again, when I sit with friends, you often see people, fishing out, let's say, RM1 or maybe 5 ringgit, and then suddenly you'll actually see a lot more beggars coming by.
That's right. I will never forget this one incident where I was at a spot where there are generally a lot of blind beggars who come about, and as we were leaving, and everyone had shared a bit of money, but as we were leaving, we saw the so-called blind person counting the money that they had.
There you go.
got.
So that's a cautionary lesson.
Exactly.
If there ever was
so on one
right?
hand, you're taking advantage of people's nicety, you're taking advantage of Malaysians and their generosity. At the other hand, do you think these group of people actually need to be assisted? Like, they need more guidance, and they need some help as well, because what else do they do when you are down and out, when you're living on the streets? You will do whatever it takes to keep you safe and keep your stomach full.
Indeed. So moving in from there, speaking about Harry Potter, or Daniel Radcliffe, the boy wizard who's all grown up now, he turns 30 on July the 23rd.
What? 30? Wasn't he just 8 just the other day? Well, Daniel Radcliffe was just, in fact, 11 when it was announced that he had landed the role for the famous wizard, J.K. Rowling's first Harry Potter book. When it headed for the big screen, he went on to play Harry Potter across the franchise for a total of 8 movies. He is seen with 2 of his equally popular colleagues as well.
Exactly. So, of course, happy birthday to Daniel Radcliffe, or as he's better known to most of us, Harry. It's Harry forever, right?
That's right.
Right. So, of course, he has also taken on a variety of screen roles and has tried to grow past the Harry Potter fame, starring in rom-coms such as What If, alongside Zoe Kazan, to even playing poet Allen Ginsberg in Kill Your Darlings and voicing a character in Playmobil, the movie.
And so I guess he's got his plate full as well. He's also indulged in some theatre stage work as well. So all
things that were a little bit controversial as well at certain points in time.
Yeah, and I'm also glad to see that even as a child star, he's tried to remain, positive.
One of the few child stars, right, I would say, because I mean, I've got a lot of the favorite child stars, but a lot of them actually fell into either cycles of depression or drug abuse or even worse.
That's right.
Yeah.
Look at him, so cute, so adorable there.
So all the way from 8, 11 to a happy and healthy 30-year-old.
And he's also made that round spectacles very famous.
Hasn't he? Hasn't he? All right, so on that note, we take a quick commercial break, but don't go anywhere, because when we're back, we will be having in the studio a very special interview on feeding the needy Sandakan mission.
Stay tuned, we'll be right back.
Hey there, welcome back to Bernama Today. You're with me, Tamina Khalji, and now we have 2 very special guests in the house with us. I have with me Mimi Liana Nasharuddin, who's founder for Feeding the Needy, joined by Farah Osman, who is the project coordinator for Feeding the Needy in Sandakan. We're actually going to be talking about the women and children who are forced to scavenge the landfills in Sandakan, and a couple of the programs which Feeding the Needy has been conducting towards fundraising, assisting with period poverty, as well as addressing the needs that arise for the community due to environmental pollution and also poor nutrition, as well as access to education. Ladies, welcome to the studio. How are you today?
I'm fine. Thank you so much.
Right. Okay. Mimi, if I could start off with you, tell us a little bit about how Feeding the Needy, the mother organization, actually began.
We started off by feeding in Chowkit.
Right.
Every Thursday night, and then we have done it for like 3 years, and then we expanded feeding kids in Kedah. So we saw that how they have changed. The kids basically are going to school. They don't go to farm anymore. They don't ponteng sekolah anymore. You know, that kind of thing. So we saw the difference. We saw the changes.
Positive differences in their life.
So when we went to Sandakan, we saw that these kids, they need something to motivate them instead of money is their motivation. They want to go to they want to make money for the family.
That's right.
But
it's an economic situation,
yes,
right?
But education, we need them because there are 17-year-olds cannot read, cannot count.
And if you're functionally illiterate at that age, what options does that leave you with today?
It will be like until they're old, they cannot do that. So that's why we think we saw the alternative schools. So we said, why not? We start with them, and at least they can read, at least they can count. Better than nothing, right?
Exactly. Baby steps, right?
Yes.
So from Feeding the Needy, which was the mother project, to moving on into Feeding the Needy Sandakan. Farah, tell us a little bit about this.
We actually started July last year. July last year. It was a very quick decision that we made, that we are joining an NGI.
Right.
That she said that she's going to the landfills, and then we just like, okay, can we join in?
Right. Okay.
So when we started that, and we saw there's 2 alternative schools around the area. But first, the one that is in the landfills itself, like, it was really, how do we say, it's like the situation, the condition of the school and the children, that we got to know that the children is being like going to the landfills on daily basis, helping the parents to scavenge for money, and what they're making in a day is less than 10 ringgit actually, for every family.
Yeah.
And what is the size of the community approximately?
More than 500 families.
Right, 500 families, which would amount to at least 1,000 individuals, right?
Yeah, more than that, because
1,000.
in a family, what we see actually, that we have the data collection that we have so far.
Right, yes,
So,
please do share with us.
The family, like, averagely they have 6 to 7 children.
Right, yes, because family birth control contraception is also another issue.
And
right?
also they have like 11, 12 children as well.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
So definitely we are also in the background playing a couple of visuals of the work that you've done on the ground as well. Now, this upcoming mission that you all will be conducting to Sandakan is FTN's 5th Sandakan mission,
Yes.
right? Okay, so tell us about why the focus on children's education, but also in Sandakan. How do you actually persuade the parents, Mimi, when the parents also do need every available pair of hands to help them to scavenge so that they are able to make all those tens of ringgits for daily survival?
Okay, we bribe them with food.
Right, I understand.
Okay, basically we feed them. There was one school that we actually feed them every day. So they are happy about it, because the chances are the kids, they cannot feed the children.
That's right.
Okay, so for the kids to able to eat daily it makes them happy already. And for the other school, we feed once a week. Happy, because they got nutritious food. We got the chicken, and sometimes we have beef, and also with the veggies, and also fruits for them, which they don't get.
Exactly, they definitely don't have access to that.
Yeah,
Right?
they don't have.
Yeah.
And then the kids, actually, they are very nice. They go back, they only eat half of it.
Yeah.
The
And
other
they
half
actually
they bring
keep the other half for the
back,
family. Right,
So
right.
it's like every week they take turn who gonna get the half of the food this week, that kind of thing. So
In the
it's
siblings,
sweet,
yeah.
but at the same time they see that they get benefit out of it as well.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So Farah, now when you speak about the children who are getting some access to good nutritious food, let's talk about the education side of things. What do their schools look like? What do the schools in Sandakan actually need to be able to provide a holistic atmosphere for learning?
Actually, when we started at one alternative school, they have really a small space that's
Understood.
containing about close
Yeah.
to 50 students. And then we came up with solution that we help them to make it wider, spacious for them.
Right.
So now what happened is they have about close to 100 students in that area, in that school itself, with one school teacher. And what happened now, we really need school books actually, but we don't go according to the syllabus of the government school, because most of the students, they are illiterate, so they really have to
start from the very ABC basics.
Yes,
of it. Right,
yes,
understood.
Yeah, so but once the school at the landfills, they are teaching the subject of math, English, Malay, Bahasa Melayu, and science. Yeah.
Right. Science,
So you've got all the basics there happening on the ground.
Yeah.
Okay, so now from the education focus for children as well as the nutrition, let's move on into highlighting period poverty. Now, you had also particularly said that you do want to mention this because this is a crucial and critical need for the women in there.
Yeah.
Tell us about this, Mimi.
Basically, we realized that they are using cloth during their period time.
That's right, to manage their
and
flow.
The worst part is they don't really get access to clean water. So that's when we start. People keep on telling us, you know, they need to be more environmentally familiar and friendly. But I said it's like they don't get
any access in the first place.
Yes. So the best thing is to give the sanitary pad. At least there is more hygiene.
Exactly.
You see,
it is disposable, and as long as they are taught where and when to dispose it off, actually the situation becomes more improved over time. So tell us a little bit about the small challenges, but at the same time also the improvement that you've seen in the women that you've been able to assist in the period poverty cycle.
Okay. The main reason that these women keep on continue having child
yes, first and foremost
is actually because getting a menstrual is too expensive for them. Because the infection.
So there you go. I think you've hit the nail on the head of such an important topic there. All right.
So basically, when we ask them a question like what kind of thing that they use
to manage your menstrual flow.
To manage their menstrual flow. Then they said it's sometimes the rag cloth, sometimes it's cotton, and then in the end of the day they will have infection.
Naturally,
because
it's not
so when
hygienic.
they have infection, but then being pregnant is much easier
to manage.
That they don't have to think about it for 9 months. Or or so.
Or even longer, because of course after childbirth there's lactation, and that most likely manages for the next couple of months at least.
Right. That's true. So that is why when we said, okay, why don't we come up with this idea? Let's see how they are improving now.
Right.
So basically, we are also trying to get close up and personal to each one of them. That says that maybe they should slow down on childbirth, because basically this is the people that they are undocumented people.
That's right.
So they don't go to hospital, so they give birth at home. And it's really actually just a few days back that we received a news, 2 mothers that they lost the child during delivery.
My goodness.
Yeah, so
yes, because also there is not much access to either midwives or even of course a gynecologist or a specialist at all, right?
Yes.
Right. So it is a very critical situation as well.
It's very critical situation.
And tell us about the type of so sanitary napkins would also be part of the missions each time that you go into Sandakan, right? Now, let's talk money, let's talk numbers. So each mission that goes into Sandakan, Mimi, Farah, how much do you approximately need to be able to provide when you go in there on the ground?
Okay, because besides the sanitary pad, we also provide chicken meat. We give them chicken for them to eat for that night.
Right.
Just like 1 kilo kind of thing. So all in all, it's about 8,000.
Right. And this 8,000 ringgit is able to provide for how many families, and for how long does the mission last?
500 families.
Around 500 families, yes.
Right.
And sometimes more. And we have to see that because of they are living in the landfill, so
that's right.
we need to give them the lice shampoo.
Yes, to ensure. I think we also do actually have some visuals that we receive from you all. We will be playing those in the background for our viewers to also see what it looks like on the ground. Now, Farah, Amimi, you've also both been on the ground. Tell us and describe to us what it's like actually going into the landfills and having all the landfill workers living so nearby.
it's just not nearby, but basically they are living in
on the landfill itself, right?
Yes, and then you look at them, it's like, how do they live? The smell.
Yeah, the stench would be overwhelming for starters.
Yeah,
it's not just stench, but it's also unhygienic, right?
Yes, and also you can see all the flies around, and they are eating in the house, and then you have most of the time they make their own house. So let's say there's only 2 rooms, but there are 11 of them.
And they're using scrap materials which are not safe at all.
Yes. And then the worst part is, one of the reasons why we started to give chicken to them is because they took the chicken that they got from the landfill.
Right.
They scavenged and then they found leftover
got little
foods.
bit of isi,
some meat on it.
Some meat on it. So they just chuchi, they wash
They
it,
wash it and then recook again.
Right.
Yes.
So it's
that's
because
what
they
they do.
are in that dire straits.
Yes.
Okay. So now let's move the conversation to a slightly broader focus. Of course, as an NGO and NGIs, you are doing your level best. And now let's move on into how do you feel the Malaysian government can also get involved so that they are able to assist and ease the lives of the landfill community in Sandakan?
I think the Ministry of Education, they have make their move that they allowing the stateless children to get into the public school, but somehow the requirements is actually nothing that is close to whatever that we are facing in Sandakan, because the requirement, from what I believe, that the requirement is they want at least one parent is a Malaysian citizen,
which is often not the case.
Yes,
right.
But for Sandakan family, like that is maybe 90% of the families that lives there. They are actually the 4th generation of the stateless that living in that area.
Right.
So both of the parents doesn't have the documentation that is needed.
So they're not able to fulfill that criteria.
Yes.
Can I add on?
Of course.
Okay, there are sometimes because they are keep on giving birth.
Understood.
Let's say on the 4th one, they don't even bother to go to the hospital or to get the documentation anymore. The first 3 children they do have, but let's say the 4th one, the 5th one, the 6th one, they don't bother because to them it's nothing. It's not changing their life.
That's right. It's not having a measurable impact at all.
So to them, they're still living in poverty. They are still living like whatever they are now. So it's like, they feel that they are okay, but to us, they can do better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they should do better. So speaking about, activating public support towards FTN Sandakan's missions, where can we actually find you online? Where can the donations come in from the general public? And are you looking for monetary donation or for actual physical items to be donated, Mimi?
Yes, we go for more for because it's Sandakan. So for us to bring from here is still because we go on our own. We pay our own tickets,
your own flights and
lodgings,
your own faring.
everything. It's just that for these people only, we ask for fun.
Right, understood.
So they can go into our website, the Facebook, Feeding the Needy, FTN, or you can look for us in our Instagram, Feeding the Needy as well. So those are the 2 social media that we update very often. It's not just Sandakan, all of Feeding the Needy activities.
Right.
Yeah.
And also, of course, on the Facebook, on the Instagram, there will be the bank in details, right?
Everything is there.
Okay. So how much more are you short of for FTN's 5th Sandakan mission, Farah? And when are you leaving?
For the 5th Sandakan mission, we need around around 2,000 more. 2,000
ringgit more.
But actually, this is something that is ongoing actually also for the education of the children, because we have this motivasi melalui makanan. That is
that's our hashtag.
Motivasi melalui makanan.
Yes.
Okay, motivation through feeding.
Yes.
Perfect.
So
and when are you leaving for the 5th mission, Farah?
That will be on the 2nd of August.
Right.
So I'll be there until the 6th.
Okay.
Yeah. So our program is going to kick off on the 3rd and the 4th.
Right.
Yeah.
Wonderful. All right. Farah, Mimi, thank you so much for being here today in the studios. We truly hope that from this public awareness drive, you will actually be able to make up the 2,000 ringgit that are still needed to help the 500 families in Sandakan come August 2nd. I'm Tamina Kauji signing off on Bernama Today. We'll see you again next time. Please do check out Feeding the Needy Sandakan or Feeding the Needy on Instagram and on Facebook.